互いの気持ちを深め合うゴンとキルア。そんな二人を見つめるこの少女は一体。
Okay, so this discussion is going to be short and simple because I don't have much time to sit here and talk about this game. As you all see by the thumbnail of this video, this game's name is Sinner's Sacrifice for Redemption. And when they mean sacrifice, you truly sacrifice. And because of that very reason, I'm going to tell you about this game. So when I mean sacrifice, I'm going to show you some of these key features that help you survive throughout this game. Okay, so let's start with your weapons. You are given two weapons when you start this game, a sword and a shield, and a greatsword on your back. So when you see this game, the most likely thing that it will be compared to is Dark Souls. You get the gist of it. Roll with a certain button, switch your weapons with another button, attack with another button, light attack with another button, heavy attack with another button, and these button layouts I'm not gonna say a single thing about, but you'll learn it when you get through the game. So when you start this game, you're pretty much given the basics of everything. Two weapons, healing items, usable items, buffs, etc, etc, to help you throughout the trials of this game. They give you a small tutorial with the weapons and items that you have at the beginning of the game, so yeah, that should be self-explanatory. But once you're done running around the spawn room, you're gonna head to these areas where there are multiple statues with vines on them, like this that you see here. You're given a cutscene upon doing so no worries, but what you see right here is you deciding to sacrifice something. So I'll probably in the future get to around how many bosses there are total, but there are multiple bosses in which case that have their own sacrifice for you. Do you get it? Each boss you fight will have its own sacrifice, in which case will continue to debuff you throughout the game. That's the beauty of this game. That is what makes this game shine. That means the more you play, the harder it will get, and depending on which boss you fight, it will vary. So I'm assuming you're curious about the type of debuffs you get, so I'll show you. So let's get this out of the way quickly. Health and stamina decrease. You get exhausted after running out of stamina. Your weapons do less damage. Half your items get taken away from you. Your shield breaks upon guard break. You take more damage easier. And many more. All of these sacrifices and many more all vary your playthrough, and depending on which way you go through first with your boss fights, it will be harder and harder. A boss that was easy as hell will most certainly be hard as hell if you do the playthrough the right or wrong way. I enjoyed it either way. I like a challenge. And just to clarify, there is no right or wrong route that you go down. It only varies depending on which boss fight you fight, making other bosses harder. So we have the fact that you have multiple sacrifices to atone for. If you don't atone for your sacrifices, you always can retrieve them, giving back your items or whatever sacrifice you had made prior to that boss fight. Boss fights vary depending on what sacrifice you make and make bosses harder. I've said that 2 times now, so that should be enough for you to know. You always can retrieve your sacrifice if it gets too much for you. And this game is hard as beans, so that's all you need to know before continuing this game. Now, before I actually get to the way you should actually go about this game, like and subscribe, please. I'm desperate. Nope, I'm not doing it this time. No, I'm sorry. No, die! Doesn't feel so good. So, let's talk about what you should do. Optimize your spears. Use your fire buffs, use your bombs, and use your spears while you have them. They are all useful. And if you use them in the correct way, eventually it will start to make the game or the boss fight a lot easier for you. Okay, so rule number 1, use your spears. Please, dear God, use your spears. Spears is what's going to form the middle ground between you and the enemy. It staggers the boss for a matter of seconds, and within that time you have free time without risk of taking damage. Well, you still have that risk, just kidding, but you still have free time to run up to the boss and start comboing, doing whatever the hell you want to do to it. Get free damage in whenever you stagger the boss with your spears. That's what it's made for. With these sacrifices, the spears will be shortened down, but you will never lose them throughout your whole entire playthrough. You will have at best 10 spears by the end of the game, but no matter what, they still work like a charm, so do not be afraid to use them. Fire bombs work differently. You need to use them a little bit more strategically than what you would use them with spears. 1, with the fire bomb, you need to be closer to the boss, and 2, with the fire bomb, the boss needs to be standing still, because the fire bomb, it explodes on the enemy and it stays there and it surrounds them with fire. And if they stay in this fire, they will at least have a chunk of health taken out of them. Its damage output is more consistent than the spears, but that all depends on if the boss is willing to work with you and stand still just for at least 5 whole seconds. And for the fire buff, it should be self-explanatory. You buff your weapon with fire and you do more damage. Simple enough, right? Good, let's move on. Once you fight the twins, you'll never have that buff again. Final boss is all about rolling, so be prepared for that. Every boss has its own rhythm and algorithm to it, so please pay attention to every boss you fight and don't die. Yeah, I'm just kidding, you'll die. So let's try to wrap this up. So this game has no story whatsoever, so don't even try to be here for the story. You're here for the challenge. There's little to no story. There's only some character development for each and every boss you fight. This game honestly feels like one huge anime battle. I don't know why. I don't know why I get the feeling of anime whenever I play this game. It's really surprising that this game is an indie game, really. I've never seen an indie game do so much. I mean, I haven't played much indie games, but still, this is an amazing indie game. As a Dark Souls inspired game, this is one amazing Dark Souls inspired game that sticks to the core of Dark Souls. It really is unique. I don't know how to describe this game. It's amazing as a whole. I love the way that every boss you fight, difficulty changes based on which boss you decide to bring back or fight over and over again. It's a challenge. It's a really well done challenge, and you have to appreciate the efforts that this game strives out to be on its Dark Souls predecessor. I experienced some glitches that I wasn't able to show to you guys. When you beat the game, 2 things happen. There isn't a new game plus, but there very much is a game mode that you can keep going against onslaughts of bosses until you start a new game. You also get a new weapon and new items the more you play this game. Also, when you beat this game, it looks pretty sick. Just check it out. Best indie game, and also it's the best inspired Dark Souls game. I like rap!